Once again, welcome to this session. The next important item is sampling. Sampling is nothing but how do we select ultimate sample units. So you have decided in the previous slide, by using this formula, you will determine the sample size. So generally, the sample size will be 384. If you use this formula for the large population, the sample size will be 384. You can round off this number to 400 or the next integers. So yes, you have determined 384 samples needs to be taken. How do you take? So for that, you have to follow sampling method. There are two methods. One is probability sampling method. Another one is non-probability sampling method. Let me tell you, first and very importantly, it is always better to use probability sampling method, because only by using probability sampling method, you can go with inferential techniques and econometric modeling. You can use inferential statistics or the techniques or econometrics. You can adapt econometrics if you have followed probability sampling method. Because when I have told the sample size, this Z square, this method itself explaining probability, 95% of probability of confidence and 5% of margin of error. In the population, while you are selecting the samples from population, you are using 95% of confidence and only there is 5% margin of error. There is room for 5% of error. That error may be less than 5, but the probability of confidence is 95%. So when you are taking the sample from the population, you are following that 95% confidence. So when you are following that probability procedure for determining the sample size, you also follow probability sampling methods like simple random sampling method, stratified random sampling method, systematic random sampling method, or multi-stage random sampling method, cluster random sampling method. So these are the 5 important probability sampling methods you need to follow while selecting ultimate sample units. You need to follow while selecting sample units. So how do you select 384? By using this probability sampling method. Don't use non-probability sampling method. So non-probability sampling method can be used in a rarest case. So these are the judgment sampling method, quota sampling method, convenience sampling method, snowball sampling method. So these are all for the particular cases, like you want to verify a single person many times to understand the real problem, the depth of the problem. For example, prisoner. If you want to know the history of a prisoner, repeatedly you go and meet him and gather the information. Then you use snowball sampling method, repeated sampling method, convenient sampling method. You have judged this is the right person for study. So that is convenience. So when you use non-probability, you cannot use t-test, f-test, chi-square test, or econometric modeling. All this not possible. Only descriptively you can explain the status of the phenomena. That is the only possibility. Okay. And at the end, once you obtain the data, you have collected data. Now you have to take the results. For taking the results, you can use Excel software Within the Excel, we have add-in Excel. This add-in Excel will help you to obtain the any techniques, sorry, any results. For example, you can take descriptive results like mean, median, samples, kurtosis, skewness that can be obtained from Excel add-ins. So within the Excel, there is one more software within inbuilt software. It is an inbuilt software need to install. So it's an inbuilt software, Excel add-in. If you add this Excel add-in, you can go for the inferential statistics like stimulation of data. So the many things are possible just by adding the Excel add-in. So by using Excel add-in, you can obtain the results. Or if you want to use SPSS, you can use SPSS. SPSS has two windows. By using this data window and the analysis window, you can obtain the results. So there are plenty of techniques available in SPSS. Or if you are using econometric methodology, adapt e-views, econometric views. The software is econometrics views or strata or even RR, even Gretel can be used to obtain the results. So nowadays it is becoming fashion using software, and not only fashion, it is necessary also. For example, if you want to take the co-integration results, it is impossible to work out the results manually. If you want to conduct a ARDL test, autoregressive distributed lag test, bound test, it is impossible to calculate the results. It is not impossible. It is highly difficult. It is highly difficult. It takes years to compute the values. So therefore, there are softwares. You should know the most important thing. You should know what results you need for what data. For what data, what techniques has to be adapted, how to obtain the result, how to interpret that results, and what background the result has to be explained. The same result for a political student, political science student, the analysis is different. Economics, the analysis is different. Sociology, the analysis is different because their backgrounds are different. The examples what we give, they're different. So therefore, use of appropriate techniques for the purpose is very, very important. If I want to know the difference between the groups, use difference techniques. If I want to explain the relationship, use relationship techniques like correlation, co-integration. If I want to prove the impact of one variable on another variable, use impact techniques like regression. It may be simple regression, multiple regression, ANOVA, ANCOVA, MANCOVA, UNMANCOVA, or ARCH model, GARCH model, HGARCH, GGARCH, like that. You can use these kind of the techniques if I want to prove the impact. If I want to know the stability or something like, I can use the stability models, vector error correction models, like that. So like that, what purpose that you are using a techniques is very, very important, because if you know the purpose of the techniques, the software will help you to obtain the results. Very simple, right? I want to simply explain what is what, meaning I need descriptive statistics. I want to make the comparison of male income with female income. So then I want to use t-test, independent sample t-test. So that clarity one should have while obtaining the results. Without understanding the purpose of the software or the purpose of techniques, using a technique is not right. There should be a rationale behind use of the techniques. Right. Once you obtain the results, you can present the results as you obtain. As the software gives the results, directly you can use. But that's not the right way of presenting the results. the better way of presenting, you decide in what tabular form I have to present the data, sorry, results. Or shall I present the results in the form of models? Or if present the data in the form of graph. These are all the possibilities. You can present the same results through graphs, through formulas or the models or even tabular format. So in which way your results are very attractive, you present in that format. So once you present the results in some of these formats, tabular, graphical or model formats, then how we can interpret the results? The first and foremost is the statements. This is one kind of analysis, explained in the form of statements or illustrations or reasoning. At the same time, it should be logical, systematic, sequence of arguments. You have to follow this. As much as possible, let it be very simple, meaningful, and understandable. Right? So, in your project proposal, you have to explain how do you obtain the results, how do you interpret the results. That needs to be written in our research proposal. You may ask now itself, sir, since I have not yet conducted the research, since I'm in the beginning stages of the research, how can I explain, how can I interpret the results? No, I am not talking about the interpret the results. How we are going to interpret the results, how we are going to obtain the results, that needs to be reasoned. Right? You can use these lines itself. Okay. The how many possibilities of there, how many possibility, the ways of possibilities you can explain. One is status explanation. The very first, the status descriptive explanation. The second important way of analyzing is differences. So what are the differences? Differences in income, differences in consumption, differences in opinion, differences in anything, weight, height, in any form. So if there are any differences, if you want to prove the difference, you go with difference analysis. So by difference analysis, t-test, z-test, f-test, even chi-square test can be used. But where I have to use, which technique has to be used at what point, that you have to decide based on the necessity and based on the data. Because already I explained in my previous slides, if the data is different, the techniques are different. Okay, so therefore you have to be very careful even for the difference analysis. If you want to prove the difference analysis, go with difference techniques like t-test, f-test, chi-square test. And for every difference, you have to give the reasons why the difference is there. That reasons you need to identify through your research. Simply not explaining the difference. So there is a difference in marks obtained by male students and female students. Why there is a difference that you have to be? There is a difference in productivity of paddy between Manndya and Koppal. Yes, there is a difference. Why the difference? Whether the practice, whether the soil, whether the water used, what are the techniques, are the seeds? Why Koppal productivity of paddy is high, Manndya productivity of paddy is low? You have to explain the reasons. That is the research. Okay. And then relations. If you want to prove the relations, go with relation techniques like correlation, simple correlation, partial correlation, multiple correlation, even co-integration, Johansson co-integration, or any of that relation explanations types. Even your ARDL model is nothing but a relation analysis. Okay, like that. And again, you have to give the reasons for why the relations are exist. Whether these relations are acceptable or not, that has to be explained. And then impact analysis. How do any variable influence the other variable? And what is the reason for that? And what is the acceptability of that relations, that impact, that has to be explained. And then association. And then implications. How do it matters? If there is a difference, what happens? If there is a relations, what happens? If there is an impact, what happens? That implication has to be written. Okay, if there is a difference, how do it cause? If there is a relation, how do it matters? If there is an impact, how do it influence? And what happens? The implications needs to be written. And then for everything, it is necessary to give tested proof. If you talk about difference, relations, or impact, you have to give tested proof for each of these. Otherwise, your arguments are not valid. So therefore, giving tested proofs is very, very important. And at the same time, don't forget to support your argument or your inference or the statement with the previous research work. Somebody has already proved there is a difference in productivity of paddy between Manndya and others, Manndya and Hassan. So he has proved difference between Manndya and Hassan. The present study proved the difference between Manndya and Koppal. Give the reference from your previous research work, not only from your own, any previous research work. If it has already proved something, use that as a support for your argument. This is very important. Okay, and then conclusion. So what I have already mentioned in the first session, that needs to be summarized and put it in the form of conclusion. State what you have done in this, what you are going to done, what you have done in this research work. So what objectives that you have examined and what are the major findings? Only 2, 3. Already you have given a lot of findings in the subsections. The conclusion, what expected outcomes that needs to be written, and what are the possible suggestions and limitations that has to be put it in, and one line concluding remarks. So this is how to write the conclusion. And then reference. I think here we are both the arts faculty, science faculty, as well as language people. If your social science, follow APA style, American Psychological Association style. If you are language, literature, follow MLA style. If you are science background, follow Chicago or Hardware. And if you want, you can use Manndya. Otherwise, within the Word software, your Word document, there is one submenu called reference. You go to that reference, there is an inbuilt software within the Microsoft Word to give the reference, whether it is APA style, MLA style, Chicago style. Go to the reference, go to the insert citation, and then select the style, APA, anything, and then select whether you are giving reference for an article in an edited book, or a report, or a cinema, or an act, whatever it may be, or a conference proceedings for which you are giving the reference. You select that and then follow the instruction given there. This is the built-in software within the Microsoft Word. Go to the reference, go to insert citation, and then select the style and select the which source you are giving the reference, and then follow the instructions. So it's very easy. Okay. For example, if you follow APA style, the references will be like that. If it is a book, something like that. If it is an article, the reference is different. If article within the edited book, the reference is different, like that. If there is a web source, the style is different. Okay, if you are presenting the tables, so there should be a table number, like table 1, and then write the title, and then the table should have a subtitle, because what is the measurement of that variable. For example, is it in rupees or in quintals or in kilometers or in tons or in dollars? Right? Subtitle is very, very important because that explains the method of measurement of that variable. So you can use simple or cross-section tables or the result tables, whatever it may be. Follow this procedure. The style, give auto fit for the table. Alignment and positioning is also very important. Alignment means it should be centered. It should be, the table should be in the center. And don't forget to give the source for that information. The data, whatever the data you are obtained from very different sources or this single source, you have to give the source for that table. Like that, if you are presenting graph number, graph 1, then title, or graph A, title, graph type based on the data. If your data is time series, use line diagram. If your data is cross section, use bar diagram. If your data is in proportionate, for example, 45% female, 55% male, use pie diagram. Food grains, what is the percentage of rice? What is the percentage of wheat? What is the percent of maize? What is the percent of others? Okay. So if your data is proportionate, in different shares, if you want to explain the share of that variables, use pie diagram. If you have multiple dimension for the data, then use star diagram. It is called radar diagram. For example, let me tell you, in human development, we have human development index, health index, education index, and then life standard of living index. 4 index I want to show at a time. For what? Not only for 1 or 2 districts, for all the districts of Karnataka, for all the 31 districts of Karnataka, I want to show 31 into 4 values at a time in single graph. Then go with radar diagram. Or otherwise, nowadays we have plenty of other method. So if your data is representing some geographical area, you can go with geotags. You go with Google enabled geographical location link data representation. You take the state map from the Google and you attach the data to that, so you can present the data through the map also. So the geotag graphs, that also possible nowadays. Okay, so the first part is completed now. Now I go very fast because that's what the first part is very, very important while understanding how to write. Now you are follow some of the steps while writing the article or the research proposal or the project. So tentatively, the first step is tentatively finalize the title. Based on the discipline, specific area, issues with reference to region, in what region that you are conducting that research work. Take 1 or 2 weeks to see how the title have framed in the previous works. You take 1 or 2 weeks, not a problem. Don't make hurry. Cross a bridge at a time. Don't try to cross the 2 bridges at a time. Cross 1 bridge at a time. Right? First you finalize, tentatively finalize your title and look into the other titles in the previous research work, similar works. So, how can I see the previous research work? Where I can found? Yes, definitely. You can go with .in, .com. Particularly, you go with Science Direct, SSRN, Ideas, REPEC, Sodhganga. These are the places you will get plenty of titles related to your topic. For example, if you go to SSRN, hope you are doing some research on investment behavior of salaried teachers like us. How do these salaried teachers are investing their savings? You write investment behavior of salaried teachers. You will get hundreds of articles related to that one. And how the previous research titles are framed. You read them. The most similar works, you follow them. There is no wrong in that. Use the previous literature works. That's very, very important. Okay. Once you identify the works, like identify works of the same kind are related, go with, you can, as much as you go the numbers like 10, 20 works, 30 works, 50 works, 50 previous research works, that will enhance your research ability, your research understanding, and that will help you to write the best proposal. As much as you read the previous research work, you will understand, you will better understand how should I write introduction, how should I write review of literature, how should I write the research methodology, how should I write the results and interpretations, how should I write the abstract. You will understand. You prepare a chart or a table for previous works. You list them. Prepare a note on each paper. Put it in a format. Identify group of the identical works, the similar kind of works for data, for methodology, for techniques. For example, how many previous works have used primary data? How many previous works have used secondary data? How many previous works have followed the scale data or the cross-section data, time series data? So make them separate, put it in a group. If there are 5 research works used secondary time series data, make them separate. So, okay, secondary data, what techniques they have used? Whether they have started with statistics, started with econometrics. Yes, out of 5, 3 papers have used econometrics. Okay, what procedure they have followed? Go through them. What are the differences among the papers? You identify them. So technique, arguments, findings. Prepare first draft of review of literature. By doing this, you can prepare a review of literature. So next step, write the draft or finalize the review of literature. So which will help you to write the introduction, importance, relations, interdependency, causes, consequences, and everything is basis for your paper. Then you write draft introduction. Develop research methodology. So what data that you are using, what techniques that you are using, what models that you are using, what designs you are writing. So write draft introduction, draft methodology. You can finally later. Make sure of availability of data. That's also very, very important. You will write, I will use this data, I will do this kind of the research. But confirm yourself that whether the data is readily available or not. Or if you are going with primary data, are you capable of collecting that data? That's very, very important. You should be aware of where the data is available, whether the data is available freely, open access or paid access. You should be aware of that. And then source, don't forget who is the original owner of the data, adequacy, authenticity, comparability, and usability. So these are the things needs to be clarified. So once you got the data already, so already I have mentioned, obtain results, construct tables or graphs, interpret the results, write the draft analysis, conclude the work. I have already explained all those things. Prepare abstract, identify the keywords and give reference. So checklist, simply you follow the MMTTC people will share with you. Just this test checklist. There should not be ambiguity in the title. Keywords are given. Classification of your work, daily classification. So meaning if you are working on infrastructure, it comes under Q and L. If you are working on energy, it comes S and P, like that. Objectives of the papers are concise and clear. Clarity in the abstract, logical sequence of the arguments, objectives, clarity in conclusion. Tables and graphs are in appropriate style and position. Sources, references are properly cited because plagiarism is there. Don't forget. Sir, second part is completed. The steps needs to be followed while writing the research proposal or your project proposal or even writing the articles or preparing the monograph. So these are the steps needs to be followed. Now I am moving on to funding agencies. Before going to funding agencies, if you have any doubt related to research methodology and writing of research articles, unmute yourselves and you can ask the questions. Or you can keep the questions for the later part. Okay, then I move on to the next part. Yes, research funding agencies. It is a comprehensive guide to research in India, major agencies worldwide, and the prestigious Fulbright Fellowship, how to apply and where to apply, how to get, what are the Fulbright Fellowships are available for supporting your projects, fellowships, innovations, and even for infrastructure, even for travel, or doing your PhD, postdoctoral work, doctoral work and postdoctoral work. So what are the funding agencies are readily available. Sir, in India, major research funding agencies are the first and foremost, that is previously UGC, and now it is ANRF, Anusandhan Research Foundation. Anusandhan Research Foundation. This Anusandhan Research Foundation has been replaced UGC, DST, ICSSR, DBT, ICMR. So previously during 90s, 2000, UGC, it was not only guiding institution, it was research granting institution. Now it has become very weak. Let me give you a small example. During 2012, 13, 14, they have introduced postdoctoral research fellowship for 100 teachers every year for science and arts and commerce management. Every year, all over the India, there were 100 fellowships for doing their postdoctoral, doctoral as well as postdoctoral, particularly postdoctoral fellowships. Doctoral fellowships, JRF and SRF. They were also given under UGC. Now there are no postdoctoral fellowships are given by UGC. If you want to do postdoctoral research, you have to go through ANRF, Anusandhan Research Foundation. So most of the fellowships or fundings are replaced by Anusandhan Research Foundation. Okay. UGC, as you all know, it is meant for the higher education and fellowship and research project. No doubt, even today, UGC gives you minor and major projects. Clear? And whereas this ANRF gives you for research in sciences, engineering, interdisciplinary researches. The very limited scope for social sciences. Sorry to say this. DST, Department of Science and Technology, it basically gives for the applied research in science. DST gives funding for basically it gives applied research in science and technology development. DBT, Department of Biotechnology, gives research fundings for biotechnology, life sciences and healthcare. And CSRI, as you all know, it is meant for science research, scientific and industrial research. It is Council of Science and Industrial Research. If you are doing any research in collaboration with any industry, the possibility of getting fund is very high. Even if you are belongs to social sciences, if you are conducting any research with any other organizations, for example, with any NGOs or any institutions or any industries or any social groups, the possibility of obtaining research grant from CSIR is very, very high. The Moola Mantra is you should be collaborate with some other institutions. Then the possibility of getting the fund is very, very high. And ICMR meant for the medical research, Indian Council for Medical Research. It gives funds for medical related research works, medical, clinical, public health, particularly nowadays the public health research is very, very less. If are anybody interested in doing the public health related research, the possibility of obtaining particularly related to the major issues like infant mortality, maternal mortality, neonatal issues, newly born babies issues like speech and hearing disorders, or the physical disorders, or mental disorders, or underweight, there is no growth, stillbirth. If you are research related to this, you can obtain the fund from ICMR. ICMR is in India, it is a major fund releasing authority to the medical related research works. Like this, ICSSR, AICTE, ISRO, MATI, ICAR, DRDO, BRNS, MOES. These are all the other institutions, the major Indian institutions, which provides maximum grant for research work. The huge grant, the magnitude of grant released by these institutions, the major institutions like ISRO, MOES, Ministry of Electronics and Science. Like that, each ministry is having the research and development wing, as well as each ministry provides research grant for individual and collaborative researchers. For example, recently I have completed a research project, Karnataka Tribal Human Development Report. And this project was funded by Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So the fund was almost 29 lakhs. They have given this fund to prepare a report on tribal human development in Karnataka. So like that, one more project I did for the energy, I obtained from the Ministry of Energy. There are 4 ministries related to energy. And one ministry is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Another ministry for power. Another ministry for coal and lignite. So like that, there are 4 ministries. And each ministry has its own research and development wing. You can obtain the research grant from each of that ministry. If you are conducting any research in agriculture, you can obtain the research grant from the Ministry of Agriculture. If you are doing some research on child and women and child, you can obtain the project fund from the same ministry. If you are doing some research in industry and commerce, you can obtain the grants from industry. And so you can also obtain from DRDO, Defense Research Development Organization, that will also provides lot of funds related to defense issues. ISRO, so IT and electronics IT, that is Ministry of Electronics and IT, MeitY. You can also obtain research grant from that ministry. Animal Husbandry Ministry, you can obtain. So human development, you can also obtain from the Ministry of HRD. So each ministry will provide. Like that, in Karnataka, if you belong to Karnataka, in each ministry, there are research funds. And nowadays, we are conducting human development report. We are preparing human development report for each of the districts and for Karnataka. For each district, the ministry is paying 20 lakhs to prepare the reports. It has allotted 200 crores. So like that, you can obtain the funds from any of these ministries. But you should know how to apply, how to tap. Each ministry, sometimes they call for research projects. Sometimes you can write on your own to the ministry, I am doing this kind of, I am planning to do this kind of the research work. They will give you the fundings. Either way you can go. We did one work for the Ministry of Defense, particularly for the child related issues. So they have funded. The Ministry of Defense has funded. The Ministry of Transport has given the frequency of accidents and related issues. So you can obtain funds. Don't always think of UGC and ICSSR. Think beyond UGC, think beyond ICSSR. You will obtain the research grants. So this is Professor Khalid, who received fellowship for his BA, Masters, PhD, postdoctoral. He is an expert in Central Asia historical research. Khalid, you can go and Google him. You will understand how much projects and fellowships he has obtained for doing his study as well as research. So types of research funding available. The first and foremost, research projects like minor and major research projects across the disciplines. A minor project up to 5 lakhs and major project up to 2 crore. You can obtain the research project fundings. And you can fellowships. You can obtain fellowships. If you have not done your PhD, you can do PhD by clearing JRF and then upgrade to SRF, Senior Research Fellow, and you can obtain fellowship for doctoral degree, postdoctoral degree fellowships. And if you're traveling, you can obtain travel grants to make the presentation in any conference, seminars. That kind of the funding is available. I have obtained fund from UNESCAP for my visit to Thailand and my visit to Chiang Mai, Chulalongkorn University. They have funded. So there are agencies will give you the funds for your expenses, travel expenses, even complete your conference expenditures may be funded by some agencies. And even for the infrastructure, you can obtain the grants. When you got the fund, you can purchase your own laptop, you can purchase your own chair. Sometimes you can also purchase, if the project is big, you can also purchase a vehicle. That's also possible. And even for innovations, you can get the fundings. Today, ANRF, Anusandhan Research and Foundation, is India's central mechanism to strengthen research funding across discipline, while traditional agencies like UGC, ICSR, DBT, DST, they continue to support research for their specialized mandates. Still they are there. Otherwise, I could have not mentioned their names. UGC, ICSR, still there. DBT, DST, still they are funding. ICMR, still they are funding. But they fund only for the specific fields. Whereas ANRM is a central mechanism to provide funding across the discipline. Okay, let us go beyond India. Are there any international or US, UK agencies, funding agencies? Yes, there are plenty of agencies. A World Bank, we have done a project of $20 million funded by World Bank under we got that fund from World Resource Institute. World Resource Institute, WRI, World Resource Institute, to carry out the research work of clean energy. To carry out the research work of clean energy in the 4 southern states of India. So it was $20 million funded by WRI. Basically, it is a sub-institute under the World Bank. So the World Bank gives funds for economic development, poverty reduction, the research areas, public policy related research works. Even UNESCO and WHO, United Nations Education, Science and Culture Organization, World Health Organization, they provide fundings for research in education, culture, science, and global health related research works. Sorry, just a minute. And then there's European Research Council. It is prestigious frontier for research funding. The European Research Council across all disciplines in Europe as well as outside the Europe, it provides fundings. The National Science and Foundation in USA, basically for the education related, science related research, it provides funding. The National Institute of Health provides health related research activities. NEH and DOE, which are comes in located in USA, there also provides funding for the humanities, energy, physics, climatic science, and computing engineering related research work. They provide funds. So others in UK, it is UKRI Research Institute, Canada, SSHRC, Germany, DFG, European Union, there is Horizon Europe Law Institute, Australia, Australian Research Council, Japan, JSPES, China, we have Chinese Academy of Science. So these are the some of the other institutes which also provide funding. So if you are belongs to economics and social science research, in India, we have ICSR, Europe, we have European Research Council, you can obtain. World Bank, globally, you can obtain. If you want to do research in UK, you can obtain research grant from ESRC. If you want to do research in Canada, in collaboration with Canadian institutions, if you want to do research in collaboration with any Canadian institutions like Queen's University, so you can tap SSHRC. If you want to do research in USA institutions in collaboration with USA, like any universities in United Nations, USA, United States of America, Saginaw Valley University, Chicago University, like that. So NSF will provide you research grant. The Fulbright programs, the one of the prestigious research fellowship funded in the year 1946 by a Senator J. Williams Fulbright. This is the name of the person who was a senator in United Nations and established this prestigious Fulbright program in 1946. Under this prestigious foundation, so you can obtain doctoral research fellowship for 6 to 9 months to do research in United Nations. This Fulbright, it is only for doing research in United States. Only in United States. 6 to 9 month research fellowship for doing your PhD research, and you are doing some research in science or social sciences. If you want to make it more vibrant and scientific, you apply for the research fellowship for 6 to 9 months in the US. That includes your journey, stay, your expenditure, everything will be given under this fellowship. Postdoctoral fellowship for early career, not like me, like you. If you want to do some postdoctoral research after completing your PhD, immediately after, within 3 years, don't forget, once you complete your PhD, don't forget to apply for Fulbright fellowship or postdoctoral fellowship. You go and Google it. For example, Inomics. There is a website called Inomics. You go and Google it, register your name and area of interest and your expectations. Like if you need fellowship for doing postdoctoral, you will get thousands of fellowship providing names. You will get thousands of fellowship providing names. Every Friday, you will get notification. So that is the opportunity. We not yet tapped them. We are not yet aware of that. Go and Google it. Inomics. that will give you notification every Friday. Okay. So this under the Fulbright program, postdoctoral fellowship, academic and professional excellence. If you are an excellent researcher, teacher, you can exchange with American teacher. American teacher will come to India and you will go to America. Teaching, research are both faculty and professional program. So for a senior teachers, foreign student program. If you have a very bright student, tell them to apply for the approach this Fulbright fellowship to do their masters or do their bachelors or distinguished awards in teaching for teachers and education professionals. So these are all the Fulbright programs which are very prestigious and very lucrative also. So what are the benefits from Fulbrights? Monthly stipend you will get and round trip airfare, health insurance, J1 visa passport, access to leading US universities. With this fellowship, you go to any universities in US, you are allowed. J1 visa, you will be treated like with high regards and professional networking opportunities. And you can carry forward these opportunities in future also. You can develop the network in the future also. What is the eligibility? You should be an Indian citizen. You should be an Indian citizen, strong academics, English proficiency, relevant experience, demonstrated leadership. For whom they give? For science, humanities, engineering, natural sciences, environmental studies, public health. Sir, how can I find this website? Go visit usief.org.in. Visit usief.org.in. You will get complete information when to apply, how to apply, what are the requirements, everything will be known. So out of my presentation for the funding agency, in Indian ecosystem, UGC, ANRF, ICSR are the leading funding agencies for social sciences. DST, DBT, CSIR and ICMR support science and health related research. At the global level, we have NSF, NIH, ERC, UK, RI, United Kingdoms, JSPS and China's NSFC fund a substantial share of world level research. Fulbright opportunity among the most competitive international fellowships, enabling research, teaching along with collaborations in United States of America. So if you want to do research within India, within social science, tap UGC, ANRF and ICSR. If you're doing research in science, tap DST, DBT. If you want to have collaboration with other nations, go with global leaders. If you want to excel yourself, if you are really worth, then tap Fulbright opportunity visiting usief.org.in. Friends, thank you. If you have any doubts, clarification, I'm ready to explain, or if you want to share some more additional information apart from whatever I have presented, if you want to give some clarifications, if I made mistakes anywhere, I'm ready to accept anything else. Before that, let me thank Professor Nanjundaswamy Professor Jyoti, and the staff of MMTTC, University of Mysore, for giving this wonderful opportunity to share some of my little knowledge with the young teachers, researchers. Hope this session would have been given some